Hey, Mooch. Well, the Saints not only had to get over that big win against the Panthers, but they had to start preparing for a Cat 2 hurricane and this Cowboys game on the road. It was center Eric McCoy who told me he and his family made a 2.5-hour trip on Tuesday to Lafayette because he wanted to drop off his wife and his newborn with family. And then it was Tyrann Mathieu who tweeted this out. His front yard looking like a lake, something he is, of course, used to growing up in the New Orleans area. But talking about this game today, Mathieu says he and this defense know you've got to prepare for CeeDee Lamb. The Cowboys try to get him the ball any way they can. Jet sweeps, screens, and he's particularly dangerous after the catch. In fact, last season, he led the league in that category. Now, the matchup we'd all love to see, Marshon Lattimore. He did not practice this week, and while he did make the trip here, I'm told that hamstring could tie him up, which means we might see the rookie, Kool-Aid McKinstry, having to travel with CeeDee Lamb. Rich, let's talk about this Cowboys Buick defense with Mike Zimmer.
That's right. As if Jerry doesn't already know, Micah Parsons is going to want Nick Bosa-type money, if not better, next year. Guess who he joined as the only player since 2000 with at least 40 sacks and 90 quarterback hits through 51 career games. That's right. It would be Nick Bosa. And that's how we come back into our NFL Game Day morning studios here in Los Angeles. All right. Nice start for these guys, Gerald.
Yes, it was.
Now, how you can't fence straddle here. You got to now tell me which defense is the best in the NFC in your mind.
If I'm looking at both of these defenses, I'm going with the San Francisco 49ers. If you break them both down, you look at both defensive lines. You look at the 49ers, they got Nick Bosa and Leonard Floyd on one side. And then if you look at the Dallas Cowboys, you got DeMarcus Lawrence and you got Micah Parsons on one side. If you look at the corners, you got Charvarius Ward and then you got Trevon Diggs on the Dallas Cowboys. The separation here is what you're seeing right now. Fred Warner. His speed, his explosiveness, his leadership, his ability to attack the football, his football IQ is why I have the 49ers, because Fred Warner, he can not only separate a defense, but a whole team. Fred Warner is that guy.
He was amazing on Monday Night.
Oh, man, he was awesome.
That's one of the Sunday storylines. I'm wondering. Let's check it out. Steve, what do you have first?
Well, my storyline is in form of a question is, will Aaron Rodgers continue to shake off the rust? And, you know, he hadn't played after that surgery on his Achilles and completed 13 passes. I want to say only 13 passes for 167 yards. Not a lot of passing in the NFL last week. You know, they only managed to run 49 plays in that game. They didn't sustain drive. So they got some work to do. He did some great things. We're going to talk about it a little bit more. But Aaron Rodgers has to get more confident that my Achilles is going to hold up. I can leave the pocket once in a while, and I'll be okay. But it's just going to be a matter of time, and you'll see the MVP kind of Aaron Rodgers at some point.
Hey, Coach, you talked about the quarterback play. After watching all the tape, you know, my impression was it was the worst quarterback play I've seen in one weekend in all my time analyzing since I retired. And so, yeah, exactly. And the stats bear it out. I mean, when you look at 35 touchdown passes, that's the lowest in week one since 2006. 202 pass yards on average around the league, lowest since 2008. Only two quarterbacks go over the 300-yard mark. And I know a lot of people say, wow, we had a lot of young quarterbacks starting, but it wasn't just young quarterbacks. So I'm looking at this weekend and saying, okay, is this a get-right game for any of these veteran quarterbacks? Guys like Deshaun Watson, Kirk Cousins, Daniel Jones, and how about even Joe Burrow, who's got to go up against the Super Bowl champs in the Kansas City Chiefs? So for me, is it a get-right game? Can this be a get-right weekend for some of these quarterbacks after a struggle in week one?
Let me just jump in here real quick, if you don't mind, because that is quite a statement.
It is quite a statement.
Since you retired.
Since I retired and started analyzing.
The worst quarterbacking you have seen on tape.
Yes, it is. It was.
As a whole.
And it was across the board. And again, not everybody played bad, obviously. We'll talk about some of the guys that played good this weekend, or last weekend. We'll talk about it today. But collectively, overall.
Why would you say?
I don't know. I mean, you look at certain things. Like a lot of young guys. We had 13 guys under 27 starting. We talk about preseason. How many of these teams and guys, and not just quarterbacks, but we're talking about, you know, the starters on a lot of teams
not playing.
Didn't play in
receivers aren't playing either.
Got to play in the preseason.
I've watched you watch film before, and one of your favorite phrases when you get upset is "come on."
There was a lot of "come on."
If I set the over/under at 50 come-ons.
Oh yeah, it was more than that.
More than that.
I think there was a couple games where I got close to 50 in just one game.
Did you turn anything off, like you were just done watching?
I physically get bothered by it. I don't think I turned anything off, but I could physically feel it in some of the games that I always want all of these guys to do so well. So when it's a struggle, it physically bothers me.
He just doesn't like smash mouth run game. That's it, okay?
Well, that is definitely
Hey, Kurt, to stick to that point, you talk about what's the reason? Could it be young players? It could be young coaches. We don't know.
Sure.
So what I'm keeping my eye on is the Seattle Seahawks versus the New England Patriots. This offseason, they traded out the two oldest coaches in Pete Carroll and Bill Belichick for the two youngest coaches in Mike McDonald and Gerard Mayo. Both teams got off to a hot start in week one, but like Kurt said, week one was a lot of craziness going on. So I want to see who keeps the momentum going in week two and starts their head coaching job off 2-0. So I'm keeping my eyes on the Seattle Seahawks and the New England Patriots because two young coaches, a lot of young quarterbacks. I want to see who carries that momentum throughout the rest of the season.
Meanwhile, the New Orleans Saints put the bang thing on the Carolina Panthers in week number 1, and now they're going to the Metroplex, where the Cowboys come off of a very nice road win against the Cleveland Browns, 1-0 versus 1-0. Jane Slater, kick it all off for us, Jane.
Hey, Rich, good road win for the Cowboys, but it came at a price, although not as high as Jake Ferguson thought it was. He's dealing in his left knee with what is described as a bone bruise and an MCL sprain. He told me, quote, dodged a bullet when it wasn't the ACL. As for whether he's going to play today, I just talked to a team source who told me he is trending out, but hasn't been officially ruled that way. That's why we love these noon kicks. We'll keep an eye on him and let you know. Now to Stacey Dells in Detroit.
Janer, Baker Mayfield and Jared Goff squaring off today. Best of that head-to-head, 3-0 against Mayfield in his career. But to add insult to injury for the Bucs, their secondary has been decimated. The headliner, of course, superstar safety Antoine Winfield Jr. is out of this game with the ankle. You should look for second-year undrafted DB out of Rutgers, Christian Izien, to step in and try to replace him. Enormous shoes to fill. Right now, let's go to Baltimore. Steve Wyche, take it away.
Well, thanks so much, Stacey. Well, Raiders wide receiver Davante Adams said earlier this week that Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson is the best ball carrier ever. Well, Jackson's teammate Isaiah Likely said Davante hit it right on the head. That's why we run our offense through L. But the plan today against the Raiders is to de-emphasize the run part for Jackson after 16 carries in week 1. Look for more Derrick Henry. Now let's send it to Henry's former playing ground in Nashville, Tennessee, and our Sarah Walsh.
Steve, no grave concerns for Aaron Rodgers and the Jets offense, but a definite message has been sent. Rodgers said too many 3-and-outs, too much time with him on the sidelines. The Jets had the ball 21 minutes, the lowest time of possession in Rodgers' career. And now the challenge for Rodgers today, a Titans defense that allowed the fewest yards in week 1. They didn't allow a single offensive touchdown. Now to Ian Rappaport at home.
Thanks, Sarah. Christian McCaffrey, the star running back for the 49ers, was officially placed on injured reserve yesterday. He is out the next 4 games at least. That means Jordan Mason, the former undrafted free agent who became a star last week, is now the starter going forward.
Christian McCaffrey on injured reserve, as we know. A couple doubtful designations. Kenneth Walker and T. Higgins have those. Keenan Allen questionable for tonight, so obviously that presents Walsh.
Maybe Nashville is the perfect place for Aaron Rodgers to get his first Jets win, considering this week he described the need to relax during a football season like a slow bolero swaying in the wind to music. Since we are just a Rodgers throw away from the honky-tonks down on Broadway, maybe this is where he finds his rhythm. His receiver, Garrett Wilson, said this week there's something very different about playing on Sundays that you can't simulate just in training camp. It doesn't happen overnight. Now, Wilson was targeted 11 times, and Rodgers says, while that might seem like a lot to a lot of people, he said playing with Davante Adams, it was never enough. His offensive coordinator, Nathaniel Hackett, said they need to handle third and manageable more. Expect them to spread the ball around, and especially to try to get that run game going, Rich.
Sarah, thanks so much. So Aaron Rodgers and the Jets and Sam Darnold and the Vikings they'll renew acquaintances right there in Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in Week 5 Sunday morning. Kurt, you and I will have the call right here on NFL Network.
Cannot wait.
Yeah. And maybe Aaron Rodgers was getting ready for the London game in San Francisco because he drove pretty much predominantly on the left side of the road.
That was a good one, Rich.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah.
Thank you, Steve. I mean, he didn't really look right very much. So I don't know what to make of this or what needs to be fixed, Steve.
Getting ready for London. Yeah, that was a tough way to start over there at the 49ers with a great defense. So for Aaron Rodgers coming back from that surgery on his Achilles. Did some good things, but not a very productive day all the way around for the Jets. What does this guy need to fix, Kurt Warner?
Well, first thing is, it looked like they came out and said, hey, we're going to try to establish the run. Ran a lot on first and second down. You mentioned it a little bit earlier. Maybe a little uncomfortable inside the pocket, which is rightfully so after time off. But I thought he threw the ball extremely well. You're going to see right here, we're going to read that underneath backer on the backside. He's going to come back, stick that back foot in the ground.
Bam, nice.
Yeah, another laser throw right there. This was one of my favorite throws. He's going to throw a go route, and the ball's only going to go 15 yards down the field. Watch, I mean, this is like an extended handoff. It's so beautiful. I mean, look at that throw. It doesn't get any better than that. Up and down over the defender to his main guy from Green Bay, Allen Lazard. And talking about that, nobody better in the league at doing this. So maybe missing a few things, but he's still good at this. You get a guy offside, you got a free play. It's what they used to do in Green Bay. If the receiver and the quarterback see this, throw your hand up and go deep, and let's try to get a big play. And this was beautiful. Him, again, to Allen Lazard up over the top for the touchdown. So throwing the ball, I thought the ball came out comfort level in the pocket. You expect that a little bit, right? Older guy coming off the Achilles, hasn't played. That's one thing that he can fix a little bit, but that right arm still looks sharp.
You mentioned nobody better with his snap count than Aaron Rodgers over the years. But he threw 21 passes, 20 from the pocket. Yes. As he gains confidence in that Achilles, I think he's going to get out of the pocket a little bit more. He only left the pocket one time the whole day. And so, you know, the time of possession for these guys at the Jets, 21 minutes and 20 seconds, that's the least amount in Aaron Rodgers' career.
Wow.
It's all uphill from here. Now, watch them. They're going to get better each week. Now, let me send